This is Mr. Hill Goddess with Luna Sage. Hey everybody! This is part 3 of Murder in the Family, and will be the last episode dedicated specifically to my dad's murder. As promised, in this episode I will be talking about how my aunt's sentencing hearing went on March 10th, and the impact statement that I read to her. For anyone who has not been following along, I am referring to the murder of my father, Thomas Thoney, who was killed by his sister, my aunt, Janice Green. If you'd like to know more, my first 2 episodes cover what happened, so go ahead and go give them a listen. I knew from the beginning that no matter what was going on in my life, I wanted to make sure I was there for the sentencing hearing. So, with some help, I drove to Oregon in order to be there to read my statement to her face to face. On March 10th, me and my family drove to the courthouse. We all needed to tell her how we felt and to be my dad's voice. Me and my brothers all wore our t-shirts with our dad's face on them. We wanted her and the entire courtroom to see his face. We had the courtroom to ourselves. They brought her into the room in wrist and ankle shackles, and then 6 sheriffs came in, and each of them stood or sat in very specific places in order to shield Janice. The judge let us all know that the DA would speak, Janice's defense attorneys would speak, Janice would speak, and then our words would be heard last. The DA reviewed the night of my dad's murder, but first had to go on for a few minutes about how he did what was needed and that the family is probably not happy with him, and basically just spent that whole opening trying to cover himself. So he explained again that the officers did not think Janice appeared to be on any drugs, so they didn't test her. When the DA said that, Janice started shaking her head in disagreement. He let the judge know that the defense team's psychiatrist had a 27-page document on Janice's mental health evaluation and had diagnosed her with schizophrenia. Janice also shook her head in disagreement at this part. My family and I know that she was fine, other than being a very mean person, up until she started using drugs and alcohol heavily, and Janice knew too. That was obvious with her head shaking. The judge kept looking over at her each time she shook her head. The DA was lazy handling this case, and this is one of the examples of that. We all told him that she was fine until she started doing drugs and alcohol and worked herself into a psychosis, and he didn't want to put in the effort to try to make a case with that by talking to everyone who knew her. He said character witnesses wouldn't be heard by the jury, which makes no sense to me, but okay. Anyway, on to Janice's defense team. They had the audacity to say that this was just a horrible accident, after the DA just explained that she shot him in the forehead after first shooting around into his ceiling to scare him. But again, okay, that is not an accident. To try to downplay what she did pissed all of us off. They also explained that Janice has been having nightmares every night since the night of the murder, and that she had no intent to kill him, only to scare him badly. I also want to add that both the DA and her defense team told the judge that neither side was sure how a jury trial would end up, so they came to this agreement that her second-degree murder charge would be reduced to manslaughter, and she would receive 10 years for that charge, and the burglary charge would be reduced, and she would receive 2.5 years for that charge. When it was Janice's turn to speak, she asked the judge if she could turn and face us, and the judge snapped at her. She had started to try to turn to face us, and told her that she had to direct what she had to say towards him. She said she didn't want to not face us. She started sobbing and said that she did not mean to kill him, and that she hopes her family knows that she would never purposely kill him and she loves him very much. She said she was so sorry, and that was it. The energy in the room was intense, to say the least. Next, it was our turn to speak. I do have 5 brothers, and since I have decided not to call them by their names, I am calling them by number. So, brother number 4 went up to the podium, sat next to the judge, and he told the court how our dad will never get to meet his new grandbaby that's on the way, and that my dad will never get to see him open his own food truck. It broke my heart listening to him trying to describe this pain that has been so unbearable to him and how it has changed his life. Next, it was my turn. Janice started crying heavily when I made my way up to the front. I told the judge that before I read my statement that I just wanted to emphasize to everyone there that me and everyone that knows Janice sees that in the state of Oregon, someone can do drugs and alcohol for many years, sending them into a psychosis, kill someone, and then get a slap on the wrist. It was quiet. No one contested that at all. By this point, all you hear in there is sniffling and soft cries. Then I read my impact statement, and I promised I would share it with you all, so here it is. Janice, I never would have imagined that I would be living a nightmare like this, one that I cannot wake up from. Every day, trying to make sense of this new life I am living, hardly able to sleep, crying uncontrollably at random, and never able to speak to my dad again. When you shot my dad, you also wounded me and everyone else that loves him. You killed a part of me when you killed my dad. You killed a great man. A few months before that horrible day, me and my dad were talking about me coming up for visits with him after I finished school and making up for lost time, and you took away all of the memories we were finally going to make. That is just a small fraction in comparison to all of the future memories and years of life you took from him. You will spend 12 years in prison, but he is gone forever. I want you to live the rest of your days for my dad now. Get the help you should have gotten years ago. Stay clean and sober, and make yourself a better person. Work on finally releasing the anger and rage that built up for so many years and led you to taking it out on him. When you eat, think of him. When you enjoy a warm blanket or a nice conversation, think of him. Although 12 years isn't enough time for what you have done, I hope it is enough for you to change yourself and come out and never hurt people like this ever again. No one should have to go through this, especially not because of their own family member. Someday, I want to have a one-on-one conversation with you, and I hope that you'll face me. I have questions for you, and it is the least that you could do after taking him away. Did you really ever love your brother? This is where the judge cut me off and told me I needed to direct my statements to him. I told him, okay, I would skip this part. I don't know who you are. You are not my Aunt Janice. There is a lot more I could say, but because this has to be pretty brief, I will end with this. You don't get to transfer your pain to others anymore. Go heal. The entire time I was reading my statement, I was shaking uncontrollably. I ended up having to set my paper down on the podium and read it from there. When I got to the part where I told her that I want to have a one-on-one conversation with her someday and hoped she would face me, she yelled out, "I will," while crying. The judge shut us down again because he said he didn't want anything to get carried away, because you can murder someone, but your statement must be censored and you cannot tell the murderer whatever you want. Brother number 1 went up to give his statement, and it was heartbreaking hearing him talk about how he not only lost his dad, but also his best friend. He let Janice know that he will not be around when she gets out, and if there is anyone who is, he won't be around them either. Although it was sad, I really loved that he stood up and pulled his shirt away from his chest and showed Janice our dad's face and told her that we were all wearing him on our shirts and that we all wore those to his service. The judge asked him to turn towards him because he wanted to see it too. Although the judge ended up censoring him as well, my brother redirected and gave a really impactful statement. My grandpa, my dad's father, originally said he would just be supporting us, but when it came time, he decided he had to get his feelings out too. He went up and told the court how he has lost so many friends and family members over the years, but had never experienced a loss this painful. He told the court that his son should not have died before him, and he talked about how hardworking my dad was and that he never gave up, how my dad went through some really hard things in life, and no matter what, he never gave up. I had never seen my grandpa cry before, and I also have a hard time seeing elderly men cry, but my brother said the same thing, that he hadn't seen him cry ever before. When he came to sit down, we all squeezed on him to show support, so he had about 5 of us that could reach him, showing him love. It was really painful to listen to him cry about losing my dad. After we all finished reading our statements, it was time for the judge to proceed with sentencing and give his final words. He said he was upholding the agreement made between the DA and her defense. He explained that he was giving good behavior for the 2.5-year burglary sentence because he once toured an Oregon prison, and the guards explained to him that they are safer when an inmate is there with a sentence that allows for earlier release due to good behavior. When they don't, they lash out at guards more because they feel like they don't have anything to lose. He explained that he would only be allowing good behavior for the burglary charge. Janice's defense then has the audacity to ask the judge to give good cause for not allowing good behavior for the 10-year manslaughter charge. The judge's response was, "Your good cause is that someone died, and the family is in immense pain. your good cause is that it was already reduced from second-degree murder, which is a minimum 25 years to life. Janice then also had the audacity to shake her head in disagreement. She was upset that the judge was not allowing good behavior for the 10-year sentence. I couldn't believe it. The judge finished up with sentencing by saying that he used to have faith in jury trials when it was only required that 10 out of 12 come back with a guilty verdict. Since it changed to 12 out of 12, he said he has seen some real misfortunes, that it was too risky, and he believed the right thing was done here. It definitely wasn't a happy time for us, and leaving there knowing that my dad's life was only worth 12 and a half years to the courts was really painful. But we also left feeling lighter because we were able to give those statements. We were finally able to transfer over those thoughts and feelings to her that we had been carrying since she killed my dad. I want to thank all of you for following along and listening to my podcast and showing love and support for both my loss and the start of this new podcast journey. You all mean so much to me. I would love to hear what you think in the comments. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you think it was handled correctly? Let me know. I am open to different perspectives. I would be grateful if you would all vote on this episode's poll to help me decide what to talk about next week. What do you want to hear? We can cover inner child work, addiction, the spiritual awakening, and so much more. You can also throw out some topics to me. I'm fine with that too. I'm getting everything set up for video podcasts, and I plan to start those within the next few episodes. I look forward to talking with you all next week. Thank you for tuning in, and please don't forget to give my podcast a share. Bye, y'all.